Welcome back to the Bedtime Banshee. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get into today's story.
The first time I saw the drawing, I didn't think much of it. It was just a child's scribble after all. A stick figure with a big head and arms outstretched, standing in front of what looked like a house. But as I looked closer, I noticed something odd. The figure wasn't alone. There was another shape in the background, darker and more indistinct, almost like a shadow. And then I saw the eyes, two small black dots that seemed to stare right through me. I had just moved into the old Victorian house on Maple Street in the small town of Haverford, Pennsylvania, a place that had been abandoned for years before I bought it at auction. The house was a relic of the Gilded Age, built in 1890 by Charles Worthington, a wealthy merchant who made his fortune in shipping. With its ornate woodwork, stained glass windows, and wraparound porch, it was a faded beauty, but neglect had taken its toll. The paint was peeling, the floors creaked with every step, and a musty smell clung to the air. Still, I fell in love with its grandeur and history, envisioning the day I'd restore it to its former glory. I'm a freelance graphic designer, and the idea of working from a home I'd renovated myself was thrilling. My savings were modest, but the house was a steal, likely because of its state and the rumors that swirled around it. Neighbors whispered about the Worthington place being cursed, but I dismissed it as small-town folklore. I spent the first few weeks cleaning, painting, and tackling small repairs, the kind of work that made my hands ache but my heart swell with pride. Yet, as I worked, I began to notice peculiarities: doors that wouldn't stay latched, lights that flickered despite new bulbs, and faint noises, like the scuff of shoes on wood, that echoed through the empty halls at night. At first, I attributed these quirks to the house's age. Victorian homes, especially those as old as this one, often have quirks: settling foundations, drafty windows, or outdated wiring. But the noises grew harder to ignore. One night, as I lay in bed, I heard a soft thump from the hallway, followed by a slow, deliberate creak, as if someone were testing the floorboards. I grabbed my flashlight, heart pounding, and checked every room, but found nothing. I laughed it off, blaming an overactive imagination fueled by too many late-night horror podcasts. Then, about 3 weeks into my stay, I made a discovery that changed everything. I was renovating the upstairs hallway, tearing out a section of water-damaged plaster, when I noticed something odd. The wall felt thinner than the others, and when I tapped it, the sound was hollow, like an empty drum. Intrigued, I grabbed a crowbar and pried at the plaster, revealing a small wooden door, about 3 feet high, hidden behind a false panel. Its rusty handle and hinges suggested it hadn't been opened in decades. My pulse quickened. Hidden rooms weren't unheard of in Victorian homes. Some were built as safe havens during the Civil War or to conceal valuables, but finding one in my own house felt like stepping into a mystery novel. I tugged at the handle, and the door groaned open, releasing a puff of stale, dusty air. Shining my flashlight inside, I saw a narrow staircase descending into darkness. The steps were worn, their edges rounded by time, and the air grew colder as I descended. At the bottom was a small, windowless room, no larger than 10 feet square. The walls were clad in faded wallpaper, its floral pattern peeling at the seams, and a single, bare light bulb dangled from the ceiling. I flicked the switch, but it was dead. The room held a rickety table, 2 chairs, a narrow bed with a sagging mattress, and a stack of cardboard boxes in one corner, their edges softened by dust and cobwebs. But what drew my attention was a series of drawings pinned to the far wall. They were clearly the work of a child, rendered in crayon and pencil, their colors muted by time. There were about a dozen, each depicting a house. My house, I realized, recognizing the distinctive gables and porch. In some, a family of 4 stood smiling in front of it, but every drawing included another figure, a dark, shapeless form lurking in the background. Sometimes it stood outside, its outline blending with the trees. Other times, it was inside, hovering in doorways or corners. Its eyes, those 2 black dots, were always present, unblinking and intense. A chill crept up my spine. The drawings weren't just art. They felt like a warning, a story told in smudged crayon. I stepped closer, my flashlight beam trembling slightly, and examined them. One showed the family eating dinner, the shadowy figure watching from the corner. Another depicted a child in bed, the figure looming at the foot, its arms outstretched. The images were simple, but their repetition and the figure's omnipresence made my skin crawl. I decided to take the drawings upstairs for a better look. As I unpinned them, I noticed writing on the back of one. Emily, 1923. Emily, 1923. Nearly a century ago. Who was Emily, and what had she been trying to say? I carried the drawings to the kitchen, spreading them across the table. The house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I studied the drawings late into the night, their crude lines growing more unsettling with each glance. The shadowy figure seemed to shift slightly in each image, as if moving closer to the family. That night, sleep was elusive. Around 2 a.m., I heard a sound from the hallway, a soft, rhythmic tapping, like fingers drumming on wood. I sat up, straining to listen. The tapping stopped, replaced by a faint creak, as if someone had shifted their weight on the floorboards. I grabbed my phone, using its light to check the hallway, but it was empty. The air felt heavy, charged with an inexplicable tension. I told myself it was just the house settling, but as I climbed back into bed, I couldn't shake the image of those black dot eyes. Over the next few days, the house seemed to grow restless. The noises became more frequent, footsteps pacing the hallway at night, a low hum that seemed to come from the walls, and once, a child's laugh, so brief I wondered if I'd imagined it. I started keeping the drawings in a folder, unable to look at them for long, but they haunted my thoughts. One morning, I found the folder open on the kitchen table, though I was certain I'd left it closed in my bedroom. My rational mind scrambled for explanations. Well, maybe I'd been sleepwalking, or perhaps the stress of the renovation was getting to me, but deep down I knew something was wrong. Desperate for answers, I visited the Haverford Historical Society, a small brick building staffed by volunteers who preserved the town's past. An elderly woman named Mrs. Callahan, with wire-rimmed glasses and a penchant for local lore, helped me dig through old records. We found articles about the Worthington family, who had lived in my house from 1890 until the 1920s. Charles Worthington was a prominent figure, known for his shipping empire and philanthropy, but in 1923, tragedy struck. His children, Emily and Thomas, aged 10 and 8, vanished without a trace. The police searched the house and surrounding woods, but no clues were found. The Worthingtons, heartbroken, left Haverford soon after, and the house changed hands multiple times before falling into disrepair. Mrs. Callahan leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. There were rumors, you know. People said the children didn't just disappear. Some claimed the house took them. She paused, gauging my reaction. Old houses like yours, they hold secrets. Have you found anything unusual? I hesitated, then told her about the hidden room and the drawings. Her eyes widened and she scribbled a note. You should be careful, she said. Sometimes, stirring up the past wakes things better left alone. Her words lingered as I drove home, the drawings tucked in my bag, their weight heavier than paper should be. Back in the house, I returned to the hidden room, determined to uncover more. I sifted through the boxes, finding moldy books, a broken doll, and a bundle of letters tied with twine. The letters, written by Margaret Worthington, spoke of her growing unease in the house, describing shadows that move when no one is there, and whispers in the night. One letter, dated August 1923, mentioned Emily's fear of a dark man who watched her sleep. My stomach churned as I read, the parallels to the drawings too stark to ignore. Then I noticed a small door in the corner, barely visible behind the boxes. It was locked, its handle cold to the touch. I searched the room and found an old safe, its door ajar, containing a rusty key and a faded photograph of a girl, Emily, according to the inscription on the back, dated 1923. The key fit the small door, and with a creak, it opened to reveal a cramped space, no larger than a closet. On a single shelf sat a wooden box, its lid carved with a floral pattern. Inside was a diary, its pages brittle but legible, and another photograph of Emily, her smile tinged with sadness. The diary was Emily's, filled with entries about her life, school, her brother Thomas, and her love of drawing. But as the entries neared September 1923, they grew darker. She wrote of footsteps in the hallway, doors opening on their own, and a shadow man who appeared in her room at night, silent but watching. The final entry, dated September 15, 1923, read, "He was here again last night. He stood by my bed and I couldn't move. I tried to scream, but my voice was gone. I think he wants me. I'm scared." My hands trembled as I closed the diary. The air in the room felt thick, oppressive. I took the diary and photographs upstairs, locking the hidden room behind me. That night, the house was alive with sounds. Footsteps, whispers, and a faint tapping that seemed to come from the walls. I barely slept, the diary's words echoing in my mind. The next morning, I found the drawings scattered across my bedroom floor, arranged in a spiral. I hadn't touched them, and the folder was still in the kitchen. Panic set in, and I called a friend, Sarah, who lived nearby. She came over, skeptical but concerned, and we searched the house for signs of an intruder. We found nothing, but Sarah admitted the drawings gave her the creeps. "Maybe you should stay with me for a bit," she suggested, but I refused. I needed to understand what was happening. That evening, I sat in the living room, the diary open in my lap, when the lights flickered. A cold draft swept through the room, though the windows were closed. Then I heard it, a child's voice, soft and plaintive, singing a nursery rhyme. It came from the hallway, growing louder, then stopped abruptly. I grabbed my flashlight and crept toward the sound, my breath shallow. The hallway was empty, but the door to the hidden room was ajar, though I'd locked it that morning. I descended the stairs, the air growing colder with each step. In the room, the drawings were back on the wall, pinned as I'd found them, but one was new. A fresh sheet of paper with a crayon drawing of me, standing in the hidden room, the shadowy figure behind me, its black dot eyes fixed on my back. My knees buckled and I stumbled backward, the flashlight slipping from my hand. That was the breaking point. I packed a bag, locked the house, and drove to Sarah's, where I stayed for a week, trying to make sense of it all. I researched online, finding stories of hidden rooms in Victorian homes, some used as safe rooms, others linked to darker purposes. I even found an ex-post about a similar discovery in a Pennsylvania house, though it mentioned no drawings. But nothing explained the figure or the children's fate. I returned to the house once to gather my things and arrange for its sale. The drawings were gone, the hidden room empty except for the furniture. I never found the diary or photographs again. I moved to a new city, but the experience lingers. Late at night, I sometimes hear footsteps, faint and distant, and I wonder if Emily and Thomas are still trapped in that house, their story unfinished, their shadowy watcher waiting for someone new to claim.
Thanks for diving into the shadows with us tonight. If you enjoyed this dark tale, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for more mysterious bedtime stories. Sleep tight, if you dare.